meeting on June 22nd, 2026 at 3:03 p.m. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And start with the roll call, please.
Nina Austin.
Here.
Raul Deschmuck.
Here.
Doug Flegel.
Here.
Middleish Cotwall.
Here.
Wes Poland.
Here.
Julie Simpson.
Here.
Seven.
Six.
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 Do you want one for each candidate? Do you want a separate image from candidates? Everyone else will want
Yes.
Okay, make
one. Can you
it-
run 18, please? You get three. Yeah.
So the board will now convene in a closed session to discuss the selection of a person to fill a vacancy on the school board, 5 ILCS 120/2C3. I need a motion and a second.
Poland, so moved.
Second. Austin.
Aye.
Deschmuck.
Aye.
Flegel.
Aye.
Cotwall.
Aye.
Poland.
Aye.
Simpson.
Aye.
Carries. You can go. So moved.
Austin, second.
Voice vote. All in favor? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Start with the board meeting. And we'll kick it off with student recognition.
So this evening we have 3 student groups that we're going to recognize, but are they, Ray, are they here? Dr. Oba? They are not here. So we are going to pause that and wait for their arrival. So we have, tonight we're recognizing our state, 2-time state champion for a Libertyville High School baseball team, our state 4th place finisher volleyball team, and 2 chemistry champions, national, international recognition as well, but they are not here yet. So we will await their arrival and move forward.
And then we'll weave them into the agenda as they come in. So with that, we will open it up for invitation for public comment.
Good evening. I am Marnie Navarro, District 128 graduate, lawyer, and incoming parent. I speak for myself. Our children, and specifically our 1,500 plus girls, are not safe at District 128. District 128 has a long history of not following the law, resulting in our children being victimized and our tax dollars wasted on lawsuits, investigations, and settlements. 128 has operated like an authority unto itself for many years, ignoring its duties to mandatory report known and suspected incidents of child abuse and grooming. The investigation into the numerous perpetrators, past and present, and the many additional staff and admin who knew and did not report remains ongoing. Sadly, District 128's flagrant violation of the law is not limited to mandatory reporting. 128 remains in daily violation of federal law for its obstinate refusal to comply with Title IX. District 128's unsafe, immoral, and illegal gender support guidelines endanger our girls daily by permitting males in minor girls' bathrooms, locker rooms, sports, and hotel rooms on overnight school trips, prescribes forced use of preferred pronouns, allows the secret gender transitioning of minors without advanced parental consent and knowledge, and expressly includes gender identity in curriculum. Under this illegal policy, District 128 allowed 2 males, including an 18-year-old, 6-foot-tall, 200-plus-pound adult man with facial hair, to enter the Libertyville Girls High School locker room in August 2024 with no advance warning to the girls or their parents, and observe and leer at numerous minor girls in their underwear changing and to change in front of them. District 128 allowed these 2 men, who notably declined to use the available gender-neutral facilities, to adversely possess the Libertyville High School girls' locker room for a semester, displacing a dozen minor girls. You and District 128 have to this day ignored the numerous parents and female victims who bravely came forward to report and publicly comment on their victimization. Imagine that, a pattern of District 128 ignoring girls and their parents who report victimization. Sure sounds familiar. Last week, Superintendent Mark Schaefer advised that the board is seriously considering forming a policy committee. 2 years later, 1.5 years after the Cardona decision and months after Mahmoud and Mirabelli United States Supreme Court decisions confirming the primacy of parental rights, in District 128, in its infinite wisdom and legal savvy, is considering forming a committee to consider following the law. Is District 128 planning to form a committee for every federal statute with which they may or may not agree? Newsflash, mandatory reporting is not optional, and neither is Title IX. 3 weeks ago, Awake Illinois filed a federal civil rights complaint against District 128 for its willful violation of federal law, including Title IX. When, not if, the Federal Department of Justice investigates 128, we taxpayers will yet again foot the bill for your arrogant incompetence. You insist upon wasting our hard-earned tax dollars on your ideology and abysmally poor legal outside advice, and expose our district to civil lawsuits, federal prosecution, and loss of our $1.7 million federal funding. This district has gotten literally every single legal issue wrong, from masking, Title
If we
VII.
can wrap
Yep,
this
I'm
up.
wrapping up. Last sentence, Mitt. Thank you. Mandatory reporting, ADA, Title IX, endangering our children, costing us millions. It is inexcusable, yet sadly on brand, that it will take federal prosecution to force you to follow the law and protect our girls. Better start strongly considering following the law faster, board. The time is up and the feds are coming. Thank you very much.
Anyone else for public comment?
Hi, my name is Diana Gratz. I have lived in the community since I've been 6. Along with my husband, we've raised 3 children. They've graduated from the high school. My husband retired from the Libertyville Fire Department after 36 years. I retired from the high school after 17.5 years last year. So I cannot compete with Marnie Navarro. She's very good at speaking. I'm disturbed by a lot of what she said. A lot of it had to do with federal laws. I've never really heard a lot of that federal legislation, just mainly state. I feel like the last years since COVID have been incredibly stressful. A lot of things we had to do reacting to, first of all, Denise Herman, then COVID, and we continue to react. Over and over again, we're listening to a huge group of people. People are, it's hard to see all the people that I worked with. And the one thing I really want to say is, while we have a very large or loud component of our community, all the circles that I am part of and have been for a very long time do not support this particular thing that's happening right now within our district. It's hard to watch. Our kids are being disrupted by it. Their attitudes have changed dramatically. They're disrespectful, and it comes from this forum that's been going on for 6 years now. And it's terrible, and I'm sad to watch it happen. And I hope this board can keep in mind that the board that hired Denise Herman and started this train wreck were experienced. They'd been here a while, and yet they continue to make decisions that were not in our best interest. So I want all of you to listen to the staff and kind of take away a lot of the noise that's happening in our community. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, thank you for giving me this opportunity. My name is Mary Jo Shepherd. I am a licensed clinical social worker. In my professional role, I have worked specifically with adults with Down syndrome. I'm currently a school social worker. I also have a beautiful 20-year-old daughter with Down syndrome. The school district is designed to teach and support children, and it did just the opposite. They cause irreparable harm. And a child with Down syndrome who is inherently kind wants to, they want to please their teachers. Little did that student know that they were being manipulated by the people's whose whole purpose is to educate. I don't know if this young person will ever understand that they do not or should not hug people for rewards. It's going to take many years of therapy, educating, and to reverse the harm that was inflicted by this one individual. What I failed to understand is that other school personnel were aware and did nothing. According to Illinois state law, every person working in a school has to file CANTS form every year. That informs them that they are mandated reporters. Reporters, not investigators, reporters. Their job is to simply report. DCFS's job is to investigate. So what I fail to understand from public information is that there were several people who reported to their supervisor, made a comment about it, but not one person filed a report with DCFS within 48 hours, which is their obligation that they signed when they signed their federal CANTS form or state CANTS form that is filed every year at the beginning of the school year. So the form explains to them, it's teaching them that they are mandated reporters. And anything they question, they should call DCFS within 48 hours. The powers, the teachers, the administrators who are all suspicious did not report this. My opinion, they should be terminated with cause. They should be prosecuted in the law in the state, according to Illinois state statutes. Every one of these people should have their professional licenses revoked. I pray this board has revoked the license of the teacher in question, that he could not go to any other school and represent himself as a teacher. In the state of New Orleans, 2 school administrators were recently charged with child abuse. They did not cause the abuse. They were aware of the abuse and did not report it. Legally, this board has an obligation to remove all personnel who are aware of the abuse and did not report it to DCFS, as they were trying to do so. Remove them and report them to the state so no further harm can come to any other child. You should consider your role as a board member. You were informed of this abuse and you took very little action. I believe you all take an oath, and that oath states you shall serve as an educator's key advocate on behalf of the students in your community. Can I ask, who advocated for this child when you were informed of the abuse? Did you fulfill your ethical obligations? From public records, you did not. I feel every one of you should step down, allow new board members who will honor the oath of office and respect and advocate every child that is within this district boundaries. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, everyone. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but I just wanted to kind of give you guys an update. My name is Dan Vosnos. First of all, thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to speak. I want to kind of give you guys a brief update on where this matter stands outside these walls. Last week, I met personally with the mayor of Libertyville to make sure local leadership understands the scope of what's being documented here. I have an upcoming conversation with your chief of police, and I've already spoken directly with an investigator at the Lake County State's Attorney's Office. They reached out to me, which tells me that this is being taken seriously at the county level, even if it yet has not been taken seriously enough at this table. Guys, this isn't, and ladies, this is not about politics or piling on. It's about documented, mandating, reporting failures. Failures your own superintendent identified. Under Illinois law, which I think you guys already know, that's not a personnel matter to be handled quietly. It's a legal obligation with real consequences for the adults who did not act, and the real consequences for this district if it continues to look the other way. Under the Illinois Pension Code, public employees convicted of felonies, which this clearly is, tied to their official duties, including failing to report child abuse, can forfeit their entire pension. That is not a theoretical, that is current law. So my goal here tonight is simple: to make sure every administrator here in this room and those listening and those getting the message who choose silence over their legal duty understands exactly what they put on the line. Insert pensions. And make sure that this board understands that those consequences go far beyond a personnel file. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment?
Good afternoon. I am from Gigi's Playhouse in Deerfield. We are a nonprofit that supports people with Down syndrome and their families. Our mission is to change the way the world views Down syndrome, but more importantly, one thing I never thought I'd had to advocate for is the safety for them in their schools and communities and families. And that's what we're doing here today. So really, I just want to be here to let our families know that we are there for them, that we will be their voice when they can't have a voice or don't have a voice, that we'll be their voice standing behind them, supporting them when they do. And so we're here just to show our support for our families, to be there for them, and to let them know that we are advocating for them, and we'll be there for them as long as we can. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next section. So we have all the FOIA requests received since last month's report. There's 3 of them in there. Any questions from the board or any? Go on to the next item, which is the superintendent's report.
So good evening, Board of Education, members of the community. Number of items to report for a good news report for this evening. Images by District 128 students Justin Miller and Jadalyn Winkler from Vernon Hills High School, and Hedy Salami and Adam Holland from Libertyville High School were selected to be exhibited at Perspective Gallery in Evanston for last month's 15th Annual Student Perspectives 2026 Juried Exhibition of Photography by Chicago area high school students. This year's juror, Chicago artist Kelly Connell, selected images by 52 students from over 261 photographers who submitted over 750 images for the exhibit, and Justin Miller's image received an honorable mention from the juror. Libertyville High School students Joseph Minogu and Margaret O'Grady both received certificates for earning a perfect score on this year's National Latin exam. Less than 1% of students who take the exam in the United States and in 26 countries worldwide achieve this distinction. District 128 is proud to announce that District 128 Voices, the district podcast, has received an Award of Excellence in the 2026 Publications and Digital Media Awards presented by the National School Public Relations Association, or NSPRA. The Award of Excellence is the highest honor awarded in the competition. District 128 is one of only 25 school districts nationwide to earn this distinction, recognizing excellence in school communications and storytelling. And congratulations to the Voices podcast team, including myself as the host, Mary Tadarik as the coordinator, and Brian Tadarik as the editor. The award is featured on the NSPRA website and will be celebrated at the National NSPRA Seminar in July. Also want to acknowledge this evening the board will be accepting donation by Suzanne Torrance. Suzanne is a science teacher at Libertyville High School. Suzanne donated a 2005 Hyundai SUV automobile to Vernon Hills High School, and we thank Suzanne very much for this very generous donation. And that concludes my report. As I shared, we're still awaiting arrival of our student champions, and when they come here, we'll recognize them.
Thank you, Dr. Schaefer. Next on, we'll move into items for discussion. First up on the agenda is the IASB delegate selection. So with Jim stepping down from the board will need to appoint a member to serve as the IASB delegate at the delegate assembly during the annual annual conference in Chicago in November.
Can we make a motion to nominate someone? Is that what we are trying to do here?
No, it's
No motion.
there's no motion.
No motion. Okay, just a
Discussion.
discussion
Consensus.
or consensus.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
What did you say?
No, no,
Oh,
I
I
said,
said that I would do it if he didn't want to, that, I mean, all you
Okay.
do is you vote.
Okay.
What the board, you get. list
Yep.
of,
Correct.
what's on
I'll
the-
also be interested in doing it if.
Oh, I mean, just you can.
Nina, do you want to, I mean, Julie?
It's not that-
Okay, Nina?
Go ahead.
yeah, I'm fine with it too. I'm, to be honest, not sure what exactly that role involves. I'm guessing every board member is capable and able to do it. So
So every year, we probably point to break out the further things, they open, see, proposed.
Can you have your
policy
microphone?
that- Proposed policy.
Your microphone.
That proposed policy that could be, coming through legislation, and whether we're on board to support things or oppose things. And the delegate themselves from us, we see all the policies, and we, come to consensus, and they just go and vote the way that we've already discussed. There could be some, autonomy. Sometimes there's things placed on the agenda like last minute. And so then that board member would, I believe, use their best judgment and not necessarily what they might want, but what they believe the body would want. Does that sound?
Yeah, and I think this year there might have been one or two
One.
resolutions, just the one. In some years there's a lot, and it's just we're deciding the direction we want IASB to take when lobbying on our behalf in Springfield.
I was at the delegate conference in November. I went to the delegate meeting, so.
So is there consensus from board for Nina Austin or Julie's?
No, it's sure. She go ahead.
Congratulations.
Next up is the summer 2026 capital projects update. Dan?
Yes, so due to kind of all the conversations we have throughout the year in terms of the projects that are coming for the summer and then opening all the bids and approving all of that, one of the things we like to do in the summer at each meeting is to give you an update on where those all are. And so pictures are there. And so you can see progress on the ones that have. There's some things that, there hasn't been much progress on them. So there's not really pictures to take, but the information you can see there, we have got a variety of projects progressing. So you'll get another one we'll have another one written for July to get that status, and then another one in August as we're getting ready for school to start.
Any questions?
Where are we at on our HVAC system being delivered for the pool at Vernon Hills?
We don't have any new information on when that would come. So we don't have any detail that it'll be later than what they originally told us. So we're anticipating that the factory is expecting to get it in August. And so we'll know once the factory gets it, and then that'll roughly a month after they get it is when we're likely to get the equipment for us on site. So that's your question?
Yeah, so TBD, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And we have are the plans and work or in the works, or have we finalized the plans for what it's going to look like impacting our student athletes?
It is not finalized, no. So we gave you an update on where that stood. And so at our August meeting, we'll have a final, but if we have a final one before that, we'll share that information out. But I know we're looking at a few things in terms of moving it up and then hearing back on whether what might it look like to shorten the time frame and what might that cost be. So that's the information we're still waiting to kind of gather and process.
Okay, so TBD as well.
Mhm.
All right, thank you.
We'll move on to the next item, which is the public hearing for the fund transfer. At this point, we will declare the public hearing open.
I don't think we can because it's posted at 6 o'clock. Both of the hearings were posted for 6 o'clock, so I don't believe we can start those hearings.
We'll have to
until
circle
6.
back to that on the agenda then.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up is then the consent vote agenda. Is there anything in here that anyone wants to pull out for?
No.
Okay. So seeing none, can I have a motion and second to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Poland, so moved.
Austin, second.
Call please.
Deschmok,
Aye.
Cotwall,
Aye.
Poland,
Aye.
Simpson,
Aye.
Austin.
Aye.
So next up, we have the items for action. First up is the semi-annual review of closed session minutes. Under the Open Meetings Act, we are required to review the need for continued confidentiality of closed session minutes. The administration recommends that because of their subject matter, recentness, and or specificity, the following minutes fall into the need for confidentiality still exists category, and at this point, no minutes fall into the confidentiality no longer exists category. January 27th, 2026, February 23rd, 2026, March 4th, 2026, March 16, 2026, and April 27, 2026. Can I have a motion and second that the need for confidentiality still exists for all current closed session minutes and those listed, and all shall remain in the closed file?
Poland, so moved.
Any questions from anyone?
Cotwall,
Aye.
Poland,
Aye.
Simpson,
Aye.
Austin,
Aye.
Deschmok.
Aye.
So next up is our IASB member dues. I think it's fairly usual item. Can I have a motion and second to approve the fiscal year 2027 IASB member dues in the amount of 10,727?
Deshmukh, so moved.
Poland,
Aye.
Simpson,
Aye.
Austin,
Aye.
Deschmok,
Aye.
Cotwall.
Aye. Okay. Next up on the agenda is VHHS Athletic Training Services. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah. We've Justin Cooper, athletic director, Vernon Hills, and I've been working on this for a few months. Our agreement with Athletico was a 2-year agreement that we were under, and that expires July 31st of this year. And so in the spring, we started talking about different options. So throughout the month of February, March, putting the RFP together, request for proposals, sent that out April 2nd, and we got 3 responses back. And so we went through, had meetings and different conversations about with the different service providers. And we are recommending to go with Illinois Bone and Joint Institute for athletic training services at Vernon Hills. That is also the same provider that Libertyville currently uses. They're also under a 5-year agreement, although the timing is a little bit different than this one. So we would propose the 5-year agreement with Illinois Bone and Joint Institute. This is for 2.0 athletic trainers. And then it also has a provision so that we can scale up when we need to. So like in the fall or spring, when we have additional event coverage that we need, we can engage additional services at an hourly rate, kind of as needed so our ability to scale up when we do need additional services. The cost is quite a bit more than what we're paying now, but we anticipate getting high quality services that we've been getting from Libertyville. We expect to get the same great services at Vernon Hills High School.
So Dan, just for my clarification, so it's about a 50% increase. Can you provide some insights on why such a big increase?
The market for athletic training has been really difficult the past, I would say pretty much since COVID. The market for athletic training has been very difficult. Athletico has historically been extremely competitive with their rates. And so that is sometimes a benefit to us in terms of what we're paying. Sometimes that's a detriment when you struggle to attract and retain quality trainers. And so that's kind of the situation that we found ourselves in this past year. And so the market is going to adjust based on attracting and retaining quality trainers. And so IBJI, this is very similar to the cost we have with IBJI and on the Libertyville side. It costs more because the trainers are paid more, essentially.
And also, this is a 5-year contract that we lock in.
Mm-hmm.
Is that reasonable?
Mm-hmm.
So the reason I asked that was obviously today the market says that you have to pay higher, but 3 years down the line, could there be a change in the market situation that the rate would can go down, and we are still locked into the 5-year contract? So I'm just trying to understand because we are starting at a much higher baseline. We are not starting at 100 or 110, 115. We're starting at 154.
Correct.
Well, let's not forget, last year, we got notification from Athletico that they could not fulfill the contract
That's correct.
right before school started, which is the worst time to try to find athletic trainers. So
Yeah, it was
get what you pay
tricky.
for.
IBJI was not the lowest cost. We were not looking at the lowest. We were trying to find the services we are really looking for at the best price, and that was IBJI. So we only had 3 respondents to the proposal. So there's not a lot out there, and there's actually a lot of districts cannot get any outside athletic training services, and so they have to develop their own internally. So we're not at that point yet, but that's definitely something there's been a number of districts that have been totally dropped by their provider just because the market for athletic training is really, really, really tough right now. So if anything, it's potentially could slow the future, but I don't see it being any less. It would just slow future increases potentially.
Go forward with the motion. Can I have a motion to approve the 5-year agreement for athletic training services for VHHS with Illinois Bone and Joint Institute as presented?
Poland, so moved.
Deshmukh second.
Simpson.
Aye.
Austin.
Abstain.
Deschmok.
Aye.
um, Cotwall.
Aye.
and Poland.
Aye.
We are going back up to student recognition.
I'd like to introduce Principal of Libertyville High School, Dr. Ray Albin.
Hi, everyone. We've had a number of exciting developments at the end of the school year for a number of teams and some student recognition. And so we'd like to bring them forward today for the appropriate recognition for this group because these are truly wonderful achievements. Some of the seasons or results that we got from some results just happened after the school year ended. So first group we'd like to recognize is 2 students. So could I have Eli Sway and Eddie Lee come on up this way along with Miss Sherry Rooks, which is an LHS chemistry teacher. So I'm going to have Miss Rooks describe the recognition that Eli and Eddie got from some chemistry testing that they took part in earlier this year.
Good evening. As Dr. Albin said, my name is Sherry Rooks, and I teach AP Chem and Honors Chem at LHS. I had the remarkable chance of teaching both Eddie and Eli when they were sophomores in AP Chem, and they took the ACS chemistry test for the Chemistry Olympiad as a sophomore, junior, and then as a senior. And each year they did do better. And both of them as seniors were able to make it to the national round. And for ACS, the American Chemical Society's Chem Olympiad test, it's slightly different than physics, biology, earth science. As a high school teacher, I only could nominate X amount of students to take even the regional test. And then there's the rule that only 2 from one particular school are able to move on to the national test. So we technically, because I'm on the committee, I saw we had more kids that were able to advance, but both of them did an excellent job. And I'm gonna, they knew they got perfects on the regional test. And so when they went to the national test, it was a 3-portion test. They had to perform in the lab as well as written responses and then multiple choice responses. Eli was able to receive honors for that. So that meant that he was in the top 100 students of the ones taking the national exam. Eddie decided when I gave him a new competition to give it a try, and it was an international chemistry test where he was competing against kids from all over the world. There were over 90 countries taking the exam, and it was once again a 3-step exam. There was the preliminaries that were in March, and then we got word that he was able to take the next round. And then we found out he made it to the finals, and the finals actually ended up being in June. I believe it was June 9th he took the exam. And we received word that he was in the top 2% of all participants taking the exam. He was also in the top 15% of all the people taking the final exam. I wish they would have said how he did in his group because he's in the youth category because of his age. There are 2 other groups that were able to take it because people in college are able to take it, as well as people who are taking their postdocs as PhDs and everything. So he actually ended up being number 1 for the youth, and he beat out all these kids from all over the world, which I think is very impressive.
especially when I see the type of background some of these other students had or the schools that they went to. So I would like to give recognition to both Eddie and Eli for a wonderful job as students and as people who took a lot of chemistry tests, and you did LHS proud. I know, but I really like you guys when you did the national test doing the lab portion, because that's my favorite part of chemistry. So you did not fail.
Next, we had for the first time in the history of Libertyville High School, a repeat state championship back-to-back, and this was in boys baseball. This has only happened 4 times in the entire state of Illinois in the history, having repeat state champions in baseball. We captured the title in the 4A group in 2025, and now this year in 2026. So it's my pleasure to bring up our head coach, Matt Thompson, to tell us a little bit about this wonderful team and then introduce all the players. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here tonight to celebrate our players' accomplishment. There's so many things that went into this state championship run that are impressive. I'm only going to talk about 2 of them tonight. One of them, as Dr. Albin mentioned, is we went back-to-back. So going into the year, every team was out to get us. Any team that beat us in the regular season, it was like they won the World Series. But that was an opportunity for us to learn about who we were as a team, what we needed to work on and improve on as we entered the playoffs. The other real impressive thing that I'm going to mention is that we did it at a public school. These kids grew up in Libertyville. We competed against teams that are recruiting from all over the place. And so one of the things that I talked to them about in the semifinal game when we played Mount Carmel, a team filled with Division I athletes, I mentioned to them that I believe that they're a better team than them because of their background, because they grew up here playing together, and they play for each other. They're not a bunch of individuals. They're a bunch of great teammates. And it was my pleasure to get to coach them one more year. So let's bring them up and celebrate every one of them. Not all of them could be here. A lot of our players play baseball a lot in the summer. So some are away playing right now. So when I call your name, come on up. And Coach Goris, I'm going to call up too, so he can help me pass these out. Brady Bunick. Caden Butt. Will Carey. Jack Senar. Jack Senar. Madden Kotz. Nicholas Farmakis. Matthew Hara. Nico Harper. Carson Holmes. Tyler Kohlhofer. Anthony Krozik. Axel McKnight. Bodie Rohrbach. Sanjay Sridharan. Braden Tolzien. Trevor Wallace. Braden Ways. Aiden Weaver. The others that weren't able to come tonight are Ryan Wilberding, Reed Williams, Weston Wyzakovich, Patricio Velasquez, Nick Sellers, and Chase Lockwood, and Theodore Kellogg.
We do have one last team just to recognize they're not here yet. The word on the street is that they were having their end of season banquet, and then they were going to be coming right here, and that is our boys volleyball team that also took 4th place in state. We have their certificates, and when they arrive, if it's okay, we can pause briefly to introduce them as well. So thank you all, and have a good rest of the meeting.
Correct. You can do that one.
We are going to D. We didn't do D. Okay. So next up on the agenda item is the working cash fund abatement.
Yeah, so this we introduced last month, and so this is part of transferring the funds into the operations and maintenance fund to pay for the Libertyville cafeteria project. School fund accounting, we have different funds: education, O&M, debt service, working cash, and there's very strict legal rules. You can't just move money from one fund to another. There's very strict rules around that. One of the ways, the way you get money out of working cash fund is you have to abate it. You have to abate a portion of it. And so that's what we're doing, is abating $2.5 million out of the working cash fund into the O&M fund. And then that will get swept into the capital projects fund at the end of the fiscal year to zero that out for the paying the cash for, or paying the fund balance, paying the project with our fund balance. And this is one that does not require a public hearing. So that's why we're able to move forward.
Can I have a motion to approve the resolution abating the working cash fund of the Board of Education of Community High School District number 128, Lake County, Illinois, in the amount of 2.5 million?
Deshmukh, so moved.
Austin.
Aye.
Deshmukh,
Aye.
Cotwall,
Aye.
Poland,
Aye.
Simpson.
Aye.
Next up, we have the authorization for payment of bills.
This is something we have usually every year this time of year. So as we know, June is the last month of our fiscal year. And we often have things that just due to a variety of reasons are not all in for the board approval at the June board meeting. And so we will have additional expenditures that need to get into our fiscal year FY26. Historically, what we do is we'll pay those and then we submit those for essentially ratification at the next board meeting following. We've had this year too. We had that similar thing in December where we had an early meeting. And so we had a long gap between the December meeting and the January meeting. And so this is really like having official authorization to do that, especially considering potentially not having a July board meeting. We cannot wait that long on some of our bills. And so we really need authority to be able to pay our regular ordinary bills on time to do that. And then we will have those for you. If the July meeting is not happening, then we'll have that for you at the August meeting for ratification.
Can I have a motion to authorize administration to process and pay all necessary district bills and obligations incurred between June 22nd, 2026 and the date of the next regular board meeting, with all such payments to be presented to the board for review and ratification at that meeting?
Poland, so moved.
Austin, second.
Deshmukh,
Aye.
Cotwall,
Aye.
Poland,
Aye.
Simpson,
Aye.
Austin.
Aye.
Carries. Next up, we have the 2027 VHHS graduation venue agreement.
Yeah, this one's pretty straightforward. So this is the graduation with Rosemont Theater for this coming school year's graduation. That the cost there is $47,000. That the way they do it is 1-year agreements versus Libertyville. The Now Arena has typically like to have multi-year agreements. Rosemont would prefer to work a year at a time. Plus, I know their ownership is changing or has changed, so there's a little bit of unknown certainty too as well. So they've historically been on annual agreements as we've been using the Rosemont Theater.
I just have a question. Again, we had a fleeting discussion around this in the past to see if we could consider consolidating LHS and VHS venues from cost savings perspective. So was there any additional discussion on why not it would be a viable thing to consider?
I have a procedural question. Don't we need to have a motion on the table before discussion?
We should.
Oh.
Always.
And even before presentation, remind me?
Right.
But we shouldn't be asking questions until there's a motion.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Can we have a motion to approve the license agreement with Rosemont Theater for the 2027 VHHS graduation in the amount of $47,000?
Poland, so moved.
Deshmukh, second.
Now the question.
So I'd like to, so I'll go ahead and take the question. So we are currently exploring a new venue that would be able to accommodate both Libertyville High School and Vernon Hills High School. The reason why, as much as I would have liked to have seen it for this upcoming school year, due to construction mainly, as well as just the contractual agreement we have, we're slightly out of sequence with both Libertyville and Vernon Hills. We needed one more full year of this current sequence. And so during this upcoming school year, we will explore a single venue. We're right now exploring costs, trying to look at potential dates. and then also want to provide the board with some options before we make that decision. So at this point, the graduation ceremonies for 26-27 will remain as they've traditionally been, but potentially as we look at the 27-28 school year, we will exploring a single venue with this, maybe a single date for both.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Cotwall,
Aye.
Poland.
Aye.
Simpson.
Aye.
Austin.
Aye.
Deschmok.
Aye.
So next up is the approval of waste management services. Can we have a motion to approve the 5-year waste management agreements with Groot as presented?
So moved.
Deshmukh, second.
Wait, what about the approval of conditional offer of employment?
Okay, I
Oh.
skipped one.
8H.
My mistake. I missed
No.
one.
Now that there's something on the table, what do we do?
I skipped one. Yep.
8H. So we went to 8I and we should be on 8H.
Mhm.
No, we're on waste management.
Waste management, I think.
We jumped ahead.
Yeah, so we should vote on that one and then come back.
So we go to waste management. I'm sorry. But we should be on waste management. Okay.
No, we should be on 8E.
But we are on 8I.
We are on
'cause there's
8I.
one on
I
the
skipped
floor.
one.
It's on the floor already.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So.
Simpson motioned, I seconded.
Yeah, there was.
Yep.
He was the second.
Okay, who was first?
Me.
Oh. Oh, this is for group.
That.
This is great news, not one that I can share often. We have a renewal for our waste management services, which is garbage and recycling. Mark has been working with a representative from Groot, and they've agreed to let us piggyback onto the rates that the village of Libertyville gets with Groot. And if you just think of the scale that the village of Libertyville is for garbage disposal versus us, they're quite a bit bigger. And so we're very excited. This is going to reduce, the exact amount. It's their unit costs. So it kind of depends on how much garbage you need, because you call them when you need it replaced, and sometimes they'll come once a week. So it kind of depends on the volume, but the unit rates are going to decrease 19%, which is fabulous. And then each renewal each year is 3% a year. And so those are not numbers that we usually are able to see in things like this. So that's fantastic. As good of news that is, FYI, that we anticipate it's probably going to be around $45,000 is the cost for our services. So the raw numbers in terms of how much we're saving is not a huge amount of number, a huge dollar amount, but still the idea of it I think is pretty good. So that's the renewal for Groot.
All right.
Any other questions from anyone?
Poland.
Aye.
Simpson.
Aye.
Austin.
Aye.
Deschmok.
Aye.
Cotwall.
Aye. Yep. Now we'll go back to the. That's
No, it's
that's
8H.
actually finished the.
Oh, you want to finish?
Yes. That would. So next up is the approval of conditional offer of employment. Can I have a motion to authorize the administration to make conditional offers of employment and appoint personnel as necessary prior to the August 2026 board meeting, subject to board ratification at the August 2026 regular board meeting?
Poland so moved.
Deshmukh second.
So in the event that the board cancels the July meeting, similar to the ability you've just authorized for us to pay the bills, there is the potential, there will be individuals hired from today until your next meeting in August. And so this would at least grant administration the opportunity to offer conditional offers of employment pending board approval in August, but it would allow them to start right away as opposed to waiting. So that's what this authorization seeks.
Any questions from anyone?
Simpson. Simpson.
Aye.
Austin.
Aye.
Deshmukh.
Aye.
Cotwall.
Aye.
Poland.
Aye. Yep. Way to use context clues.
Right. Do we want them in before we do the hearing?
Yeah, we'll take care of that.
Yep.
We'll do the hearing and then we'll.
Do the appointment.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we are going to invite the volleyball team, which we're just using context clues. We hear noises in the foyer, so we're thinking they came. Either that or a lot of people for public comment for the to weigh in on the hearing. But
Ready? All right. Thank you, everyone. My name is Tom Calentis, and I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning. Tonight, I step into my role as former Libertyville principal to introduce a team that the entire school community is extraordinarily proud of, the boys volleyball team, which this year took 4th in the IHSA state competition. Got a couple gentlemen here showing off some of the hardware they've earned along the journey of their season. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce their extraordinary coach, Miss Jenny Smith.
Thanks. Not done this before. So this is actually our second state trophy, and we're really proud of it. We're extremely excited and happy about the success of the season. We had a fantastic group of kids who are focused, worked hard, had high volleyball presence on the court. And I'm going to acknowledge them here one by one. You guys are going to come up and receive your award. So first up, Chase Birchfield. Connor Desiron. Josh Blinzak. Carson Hawkinson. Andrew Hodge. Jack Kendall. Jackson Kern. Nathan Knight. Jackson McKay. Braden Moss. Tucker Raffin. Lucas Slessers. And Colin Waddell.
You're welcome to come up too if you want.
You can move this side.
Now we go to. Yep.
Or do we want to just finish 8 and do 8J, then the public hearing?
Only because, do you want her voting on the public hearing? Or do you
Oh,
want-
probably not. I mean, she can
Yep.
abstain though, but.
No, I think it
Yeah.
would be smoother to just go to the public hearing and then.
As long as we're jumping around, we might as well be.
Yeah.
Sure.
Let's just finish it off.
You know how like this is like driving me
Oh, I-
insane.
Oh.
We acknowledge that.
My insides are.
Yeah, I'm struggling.
It didn't help that I even jumped around, even in the sequence that we were there. So
I said, I'm trying to figure out who's our parliamentarian. I'm serious.
Robert's rule.
You can have that role.
No, I mean, I don't know all the rules. I only know some of the rules.
Need a cheat sheet for Robert's rules.
Hmm?
And
Yep.
we need a cheat sheet for Robert's rules and this will guide us.
It's about the intent.
Somebody has to take that. Like somebody from the
We have good intent.
So we are going to go back to agenda item for the public hearing for fund transfer. At this point, I declare the public hearing open. Dan will share some information about it.
Yeah, so as I mentioned in the working cash fund one, we also talked about this in May. We have funds in our education fund that we would like to transfer to the O&M fund to also help pay for the cafeteria project. The laws around that one says that you absolutely can move the money there, but you have to have a public hearing that's properly noticed. And so that's what this is. So before you can approve the resolution to authorize the transfer, you have to have this hearing with the ability for the public to make comment. And that's what this is. So we're looking to transfer. Boy, I'm so sorry, I forgot the number.
4.6.
That sounds right. Thank you. 4.6 million from the education fund to the operations and maintenance fund.
At this point, we are checking for public comment. Seeing none, I guess we'll declare the public hearing closed. Next up on the agenda is the public hearing for the FY27 budget. Declare the public hearing open. Dan?
All right, we got a few slides here to go through. So this is required by state law before the board is can adopt a budget, they have to, by law, have a public hearing that is also properly noticed. And so that's what this hearing is. We're not approving the budget tonight, but we're having the hearing for it. And so we're going to hit a few highlights for this. So as to zoom out at a super big perspective, the major cost, major levers in this budget are listed in the assumptions. The revenue, the biggest impact to our revenues is CPI, which is essentially the rate of inflation. So that 2.9%, which is the levy that the board approved back in November, that is having the biggest impact on our revenues. Also interest income increasing in terms of what we're budgeting. On the expenditure side, you know, the vast majority of our funds go to the people that we staff here. And so those staffing plans that were done in the spring, those are what's informing the costs, as well as our contracts with our labor, our teachers and our ESP unions, as well as raises for others. We have talked before a bit about medical insurance, the structure changes that we did in terms of going from a 2-tier system to a 4-tier system. And in terms of what the base plan the district is paying now, those are being reflected here. And so you will, the impact of that is what you will see is it's not in, something is not increasing as in other ways what it would be. And that's having a significant impact. The other thing is increased transportation costs. I have said this continually, and I'll continue to say it until it's not. Transportation continues to be a concern in terms of our costs. It's something that increases much faster at a rate. So our contract with Lakeside, which is turn to first student now, is a 6% increase for this next year. And we have athletic transportation that's not part of Lakeside or first student. It'll take me a little bit to get used to that name. That is also a concern in terms of trend and cost and everything. And so this is something that we've been talking about for a while. We've also discussed that, you know, this is something we're going to take a really focused look at this fall in terms of what's going into those costs for the drivers, for particularly for athletic transportation, our regular transportation, special education transportation, because there's a lot there. It's a very big system. And so we're going to look at that to try to find ways to mitigate some of those increases. The trick is to slow it down. It's increasing at a rate faster than we're able to manage. And eventually it'll overtake other things in our system that it really should not. So that's there. And then increased capital investment. So we've talked also about our long-term capital plan and the need to invest more. So you're seeing that reflected in this budget. It's not going to be enough. We still are not going to have enough to really hit the needs for our capital needs, but you're seeing a big increase in terms of capital investment. And so that is part of what we have to do there. If you zoom out probably as high as I can zoom out in terms of our funds, we have the different funds there. So 10, 20, 40, 50, 70, 80, those are our operating funds. And so that has their own revenues and then expenditures. So if you just look at the right column, you will see our revenues are budgeted at 115 million. And then our expenditures on the bottom right are budgeted at 112.5 million. And so that is a surplus of $2.9 million. So what that means is we have a balanced budget. So a balanced budget means you're not spending more than what you're taking in. So think of your own personal finances. I like to explain it on an annual basis. You're not spending more money than you're taking in. That would be a big problem if we had that. So we are not there. We always need to have at least some type of surplus in there to maintain our fund balance strength. And so this, in terms of our projections, was somewhat expected. And this is going to be a higher year, so I don't anticipate seeing a number this high next year. This is particularly due to a high number of retirements that happened this past year and just other circumstances like the implementation of the health insurance structure changes happening now. That's having a unique impact on this year. So that's what our operating surplus is for FY27 projected, 2.9 million. If we go to the next one, this is an overview of the revenues and our major sources and broken down. This is the same information you would have seen in April. The same information we had back then is the same information now in revenues. Those haven't changed. That's going up 3.6%, and that's most of that is the 2.9% increase on CPI. Plus, there's been additional new properties that have been built or houses improved on in our taxing district, as well as interest income. So you can see there's columns with some details there. But 3.6 is what we're seeing on the revenue side increase. If we go to the next one, This is just kind of zeroing in on, or at a really high level, our expenditures in terms of salaries, benefits, purchase services, things like that. Our expenditures are projected to increase, call it 2.5%. So they're increasing at a slower rate than the revenues, which is, you'd rather have that than have it be the other way. The biggest reason for those increases is going to be raises for existing staff. That's going to be transportation costs that I've mentioned before. That's also going to be the capital investments. So you can see we have a capital increase of 17.84. That's because we've increased our capital, our investment in our capital in terms of our buildings and projects that we're doing. You can see the FTE changes there based on the staffing plans that the board has approved. And then the thing where you see benefits, which is that second line, that benefits are essentially flat. That is because of the structure changes we're seeing. And normally you might see that go up anywhere from 8 to 10%. So we are avoiding that, which has a significant impact. And that is the thing that is going to help secure our long-term financial strength. So that's the information on the expenditures. No, you're good. Yep. So that's, we had the budget. Then the question is, how did this compare to the projections we had in February? So February 2026 is when we did financial projections. Here's how it compares. It is extremely close. So on the projection side, back in February, we projected 115.3, and basically we're 40 grand more for the budget at 115,408. So that's 100%.4. That's extremely accurate, which is great, because the difference between projections and budget, projections are broad strokes. They are trends. They are more estimations. Budgets are very precise. So for example, on the expenditure side, on projections, you might say, oh, the average raise might be 3% for this group of people. But on the budget, I have every single name listed, every single salary, every single benefit election. All of that stuff is built from the ground up. And so that's how there's the precision of a budget is very different than the precision of a projection. On the expenditure side, we projected 112.8 million on expenditures, and the budget is 12.5. So you can see that's 99.73, which is also very close. However, if you recall, the February projections assumed flat FTE. Mine always assumed flat FTE as a baseline of, if we keep doing exactly what we're doing, staffing the same number, what happens? And so that was my projection. So based on the staffing plans, we actually have a reduction in FTE of 1.5. And so if I take that into account, we're actually 100.11. So extremely accurate. And we don't like try to get there. It's just, that's how the numbers ended up shaking out when we budgeted at the end of the day. So they're extremely accurate relative to the projection. So the point is really just kind of, that's also a check to see, all right, this is what we budgeted. And then like, do these numbers make sense? How close are these to what we projected? Are they different? If they are different, why are they different? Was there an assumption difference? Did we have a math error on something like that? And so this is showing us that the projections we had were pretty reliable. And so that's encouraging, especially as we move forward into future long-term planning. And I think that's all the info. Is that the last one, Bo? Yeah, okay, cool. So that's the last slide we have for giving you the broad strokes of the budget. There's a detailed report in the agenda item as well as all of the reports, all the budgets, the state budget report that's on file, posted as well. All that information is there as well. And so we're not approving the budget tonight. This is the chance for hearing. Board, you're welcome to ask questions as well. And then we'll be approving the budget at a future meeting.
Now, maybe one, maybe two questions. The first is the interest income, the increase that has been projected. What is the basis? The Fed rate is not expected to change dramatically, maybe go up a quarter point or something. So I'm just curious, what was the basis?
The basis was really to recognize the increase we have already seen. So for example, this fiscal year, we budgeted 2 million, but we've already received 2.7 million and the fiscal year is not done yet. So this doesn't include all of the money. So we budgeted 2 million this year. We received 2.7 million this year. So I'm going to budget, or we received 2.7 this year. I'm going to budget 2.7 for next year as an estimate. So I'm anticipating potentially, because we'll have more interest income before the fiscal year is done. I'm anticipating potentially a little bit less. I'm not anticipating big drastic changes. And so I've always been a little hesitant to get closer because interest income can be very volatile depending on the market, and there's a lot of unknowns. There are always a lot of unknowns. And so I'm usually more conservative because what I want to discourage a system from doing is being super optimistic about your interest income. And then if it doesn't happen, if you have built out your operations based on a very shaky revenue source, that sets you up for not success. And so I feel comfortable moving forward with this. We will review this again, but we have been slowly increasing this as we've seen year over year interest income near these levels.
Yeah, that's financially very prudent, and so thank you for that. My second question is, obviously we have targeted the inflation at 2.9, but we have a decent amount of discretionary expenditure through the year. So do you think that our projections on that front may be a little off because of inflation being, real world inflation being reasonably higher than what is projected?
The way the projections are designed are to be tied to revenue, meaning if I'm projecting a 3% inflation, I will project a 3% increase on revenue, and I will also project, not exactly, but I will have that number impact the assumption on the expenditure side. And so typically we have raises are somewhat connected to the CPI, the inflation rate. So some of them are directly connected, like whatever that number is, that's what the raise is. Some are more indirectly applied in terms of that might impact a portion of the raise. And so they're tied. So whenever I have an assumption change on the revenue side, I have a corresponding assumption change on the expenditure side. So if we do see higher inflation, that might impact the revenue assumption, but that will also impact the expenditure assumption. But yes, long-term inflation is still extremely unpredictable. We've had a huge volatility within the last 5 years as well, and don't know where that's going to be. That's why I try to caution us. I know we do 5 years. 5 years is just to give you a general idea of where we're heading. It's really the next 2 to 3 years are really the focus you need to have on the financial projection that has the most meaningful information. That tells you, do you need to make changes now to avoid something in 3 or 5 years? That's the primary driver for what those do.
I appreciate your foresight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But also, as a part of this, we'll extend an invitation for public comment. Any other questions from the board? Seeing none, we'll declare the public hearing closed. Yep. So can I have a motion to approve the resolution authorizing transfer in the amount of 4.5 million from education fund into the 4.6 million from the education fund into the operations and maintenance fund of Community High School District number 128, Lake County, Illinois.
Deshmukh so moved.
Austin second.
Yes.
Austin.
Aye.
Deshmukh.
Aye.
Cotwall.
Aye.
Poland.
Aye.
Simpson.
Aye.
So next up, can I have a motion to appoint Dr. Jean Sophie to serve as the new board member to serve the remainder of the vacancy term until the next school board election in April 2027?
Okay, I'm ready. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. You said so moved.
Poland second.
Oh, one second. Thank you. Wait. Ready for me?
Deschmok,
Aye.
Cotwall,
Aye.
Poland,
Aye.
Simpson,
Aye.
Austin.
Aye. All right.
Welcome to the board, Dr. Jean Sophie. If you want to come up, we'll administer the oath of office. Yes. If you could sit down. After. Yeah, come on.
You can sit right here. You can sit right here. Or over there.
No, not this one.
This
That's
one.
this. Third.
This is good.
No, it's board member seat.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Helps a lot. Okay, you want me to go ahead and say it?
Yes, please.
Okay. I do solemnly swear, excuse me, I'm going to start over again. I, Jean Sophie, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of the Board of Education of Community High School District 128 in accordance with the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and the laws of the State of Illinois to the best of my ability. I further swear that I shall respect taxable interests by serving as a faithful protector of the school district's assets. I shall encourage and respect the free expression of opinion by my fellow board members and others who seek a hearing before the board while respecting the privacy of students and employees. I shall recognize that a board member has no legal authority as an individual and that decisions can be made only by a majority vote at a public board meeting. I shall abide by majority decisions of the board while retaining the right to seek changes in such decisions through ethical and constructive changes and channels. As part of the Board of Education, I accept the responsibility for my role in the equitable and quality education of every student in the school district. I shall foster with the board extensive participation of the community, formulate goals, define outcomes, and set the course for Community High School District 128. I shall assist in establishing a structure and an environment designed to ensure all students have the opportunity to attain their maximum potential through a sound organizational framework. I shall strive to ensure a continuous assessment of student achievement and all conditions affecting the education of our children in compliance with state law. I shall serve as education's key advocate on behalf of students and our community schools to advance the vision for Community High School District 128. And I shall strive to work together with the district superintendent to lead the school district towards fulfilling the board The vision the board has created, fostering excellence for every student in the areas of academic skills, knowledge, citizenship, and personal development.
Thank you. Welcome to the board. Officially. We have some items for information. Any comments from the board on recent events? Don't think we have an IASB report. Anything from CDOL?
Just the report is that the new superintendent is now in place, Dr. Jennifer Thomas, and just want to extend a big thank you to the two interim superintendents for the past 2 years, Dr. Judy Hackett and Dr. Jim Thomas.
Do we have anything from EdRed?
Just a quick reminder that the third annual EdRed Mini Summit was held on June 11th at the new Lake County Regional Office of Education facility, which is very nice. So very happy for them. And for those who attended, please make sure to submit the feedback form if you haven't already done so. That input really helps EdRed continue to improve future programming. And that's it for now.
Okay. Thank you. Next up, we have the list of future agenda items. Anything anyone would want to change?
Is this something we're going to discuss at our retreat?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and how the process. Perfect.
Any other things on anyone? Okay. Then can I have a motion and second to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Austin, second.
All in favor?
Roll call.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No.